G'day guys, Matt here from Not in the Manual. Welcome to episode 4 of my preconditioning series. So my test video blogs continue. I have 3 tests in this episode. This all, things evolved as I did these preconditioning series. So it's turned into a bit of, as I said, video blog of my tests, and where I give you some stats and some opinions on the drive feel for each of the tests. And then we look at the efficiency and the costs and everything at the end. So in this episode today, we're going to run through 3 more tests, and then episode 5, the next episode, will be the full summary of this test altogether with data, spreadsheets and everything. So today we're going to begin with test drive number 3, and that is preconditioning outside unplugged on a cold morning. And we'll look at the results of that test. Then we have test drive number 4, which is something that I discovered during these preconditioning tests was what happens with a lower state of charge. So the second test in this video, test drive number 4, is not preconditioning. So the car is totally unpreconditioned, so it has a really cold battery, but a lower state of charge, and we see what happens there and look at the results of that, the efficiency and costs and drivability and things. Then I threw in an extra test drive number 5, and that is just a bit of a proof test, a verification test of the original test I did outside preconditioning in cold weather, because the first test I did wasn't as cold as I would have liked. So this last final test, it was very cold. So we look at the results of that test. And once again, we're looking at efficiency, the overall drivability, the cost, and compare all that at the end. And try and work out what's most important, what's the most expensive method, and go from there. And then you guys can make your decision. So, I'll sum it all up in episode 5. We go through the spreadsheet data and look at it all there, and we compare it all. So this is all just raw tests, not super scientific, but it just shows you, what to expect from the different preconditioning methods and in different conditions. So let's get into the first test, test drive number 3. Hope you enjoy it. So I decided to do one more test today and just precondition the car. The ambient temperature is 10 degrees. So this is more typical of a winter's morning here where I live. So the battery was at about 14 degrees. So I've preconditioned outside, not plugged in. And this morning at about 6 a.m. the battery was at 85%, so it hasn't even used 1%. It's heated the battery up to 20 degrees, and I've sort of let it go 10 minutes past the scheduled departure, so I've got a bit of 10 minutes extra time to heat the battery up, but it's at 20.3 degrees. Our regen's at 39. I think anything above 40 is usable for a casual driving style. If you drive a bit faster, you're braking late, then it's probably not going to be good enough. But anything above 40 kilowatts is usually usable for one pedal driving. So no problem. You can see 245 kilowatts max output power. All pretty normal. So you can see it uses about 1%, and roughly to precondition without it being plugged in. And you can see it's all sort of nice and settled there. So as we drive along, rear stator temp isn't 97. Since the latest update, that's been playing up a bit. Every now and again when you're driving, that'll flick back to the real temp, and you'll see it. But imagine the next scan, my Tesla update, that'll be fixed too. So okay, I'm almost at work now, so that's my trip today. The battery only heated up 1.3 degree. Oh, battery's heated up. I had some issues with Scan My Tesla. So yeah, the battery's heated up to 21.3 degrees. So you can see still not much. It's really only starting to now. You can see the battery inlet's at 23. Max regen power is still around that 40 kilowatts. Okay guys, just doing an experiment. I worked out at a lower state of charge that the car seems to perform a bit better or not limit the regen as hard. So just trying that. We're at 50% state of charge. It's 6 degrees Celsius outside temperature, and what are we doing? The cell temp mid is 10 degrees, so we're a lot cooler than the other day. So even at 50%, our max regen power is 35.9, which should still be usable one pedal driving. So let's just do a quick impression of the you know, how it drives. Okay, I've been driving for a little bit now. I've got the message up here continually saying deceleration limit when accelerator released. But regen sitting up, regen limit's 38.3, battery's still at 10.8 degrees, battery cell temp mid, 7.5 degrees outside temperature. Yeah, almost 40 kilowatts of regen braking at 10 degrees. Not too bad. I don't know, at some point I think possibly this car goes into some sort of snow mode or something to make it so the back wheels don't lock up during regen. I wonder, yeah, so going down this hill now, the regen's just dropping so quickly, the regen limit down to 18. So yeah, it's still a bit, you know, weird to drive when the battery's this cold, but at 49% charge, it's not as bad as when you're up at 80%. We'll have a look at the efficiency though when I get to work. All right, we're just going to get into some stop-start traffic here. Yeah, 39.1 kilowatt regen limit. Yeah, that regen braking's quite good. You find normally, even if the regen limit is much higher, the braking doesn't tend to get up past 40 anyway, really. So this is quite normal. So I think a trick is if you're in a cold climate and you don't have a long journey to do and you're just doing your normal commutes, I'd say let the state of charge run down a bit, and the regen limit won't be as harsh. Prolonged downhills, yeah, it's going to back it off, but for most of your drive, I've just been one pedal driving through this. It's not like it was the other day. The other day it was limiting it to 20 degrees when the battery was at 14 degrees. That was just with that higher state of charge. I thought for the test that 80% charge would be enough of a buffer not to play a role in the limiting of the regen, but obviously the state of charge was still playing a role in the regen limiting. I'm assuming at the lower state of charge, what's happening is the battery is less susceptible to the cold weather, the cold battery damage, charging, putting energy back into the battery for prolonged periods of time when the battery's cold. So I'd say, yeah, just at that lower state of charge, you're able to just put some more energy back in. So yeah, we're at 39.5. This feels fairly normal regen. So I guess that's something I've discovered. I don't normally run my car down past 60 or 70%. I'm normally just charging at work, and as you've seen in my other videos, you know, I'm lucky to use between 10 and 15% every day, and that's easily topped up at work off the 240 volt 10 amp socket. Almost had to put my foot on the brake, but that was me not paying attention. Yeah, so guys, I think there's a bit of a trick if you can run your battery down a bit lower in the colder climate, and then just top it up once a week to give it that, you know, battery management system reset for the state of charge. And yeah, I think, well, let's just see where the efficiency's at, because, you know, the other day when I didn't precondition, well, that's the other thing, I didn't precondition the car today. I forgot to mention that at the beginning. So yeah, this is I've learned something here with this. So we're down to 48.6% now. I'll leave it there, but I'll do a quick review when I get to work on the, or closer to work, on the efficiency, and see where that's at. Okay, I'm almost at work, so we can do a little bit of a summary here. Just chucking in autopilot. No, it's doing this. I won't be chucking it in autopilot. Okay, time to just do a bit of a summary. Bit surprising. So 124 watt hours per kilometre. So not as efficient as when I preconditioned, but more efficient than when I didn't precondition, but at 80% state of charge. So I'm now at 44 or 45% state of charge. Regen limit's 44, and it goes in line with the max charge power. So the battery's at 12.8 degrees at the moment, so it really hasn't heated up much at all on this trip. And yeah, it seems that the regen limit goes hand in hand with the max charging limit, at least up until, you know, the max regen this car can possibly have, which I think is 85 kilowatts. So that goes in line with what you know, you're limiting that feeding in of that constant high power into the LFP battery when it's cold. And so charging, regen, same thing. So the car wants to limit either of those, and it makes sense that it limits them at the same level. So just a little bit of insight there. And the car was great to drive. As you can see here, we've got 7 degrees Celsius, and I thought it'd be a good morning to do my final test in preconditioning. So what I've done is preconditioned outside. You can see there, 6.5 degrees Celsius actually. So the car's reporting 7 degrees, but it's actually 6.5. Look, this is as cold as it gets here in Sydney. We're in July now. It's taken me a while to get this test done, but anyway, you can see here preconditioned to, it was sitting up on 20.8 or something when I first got in the car. It's on 19.5 degrees Celsius now. And what have we got? Battery inlet. Yeah, battery inlet fluctuates depending on what it's doing with the cabin. So you can see here now that the HVAC is dialed back. We're on 300 watts. So it's going to suck some heat from the battery. And it's just sharing the heat throughout all the systems and getting everything nice and balanced and heated up and preconditioned for driving. So state of charge though, so that was 80%. I've actually let it go a bit longer than I normally let it 10 minutes longer, so we can probably take 2% off that. So this morning it used, I'm thinking about, you know, between 3 and 4% to precondition. So I tend to believe about 3%, and you know, possibly we might just call it 3.5% to precondition, but I'll be able to look at TeslaFi log into TeslaFi and look at the stats later on. We should be able to see that. There's nothing else interesting there. The rear stator issue is fixed. The rear stator temp is actually showing up here again. You can see that's at 33. Yeah, I'll drive to work and give you a summary once I get there. All right, guys, that's the trip to work done. So it's still only 8 degrees, 8.5 degrees on Scan My Tesla. Now, one thing I didn't point out, I'll highlight in the video, is the max regen was sitting around 37 kilowatts. Now, that's borderline useful for one pedal driving, so it has still been limited, even though the battery temperature was at 20 degrees when I first got in the car. It hasn't really changed much since then. It's still sitting on 18.8. Now, that's to do with the ambient temperature. So it was 6.5 degrees when I first started. It's 8.5 now. And that really, the car seems to really struggle there, and it keeps the regen limited with that lower ambient temp. If the battery was a lot warmer, I could have navigated to a supercharger to warm it up and would have gotten rid of that limit, but that's a bit pointless and wasted energy. But I still don't know why Tesla, you know, I'll talk about it in my summary video as well, why they don't let that rear motor just get a bit warmer when it's low ambient temperature. That's really, I don't think it's going to cost them that much energy efficiency wise to let that motor heat up a bit. It's on 29 degrees at the moment, which is its target temp. But maybe when it's a bit colder or the battery temperature is down, they could just let that get up to 40 degrees or something and bring up that battery inlet just to warm that battery up a bit more. I think that would really just improve the drive feel for people. And hopefully they're planning on doing that one day, because I think that would be something very easy for them to do. Just change the target temp relative to the ambient temp and battery state of charge. So the battery state of charge is at 68.6 now. So that for 68% limit, I think that's 68% state of charge. That limit of 35.3 is still a bit low. It's still a bit harsh on that limit, I think. We'll see what happens, and wait for something to be improved in an update. But it's still drivable. Look, I'm still driving one pedal. It's limited to 35. So as I said, at the lower speeds, I'll cover that in my summary again. Lower speeds, this around 40 kilowatts of regen limit, max regen power is not too bad. So it's still usable as one pedal. It's really only once you're getting to the faster, or if you're braking late, or you're in a rush or whatever, you'll find you're using the brake pedal. But most of the time you can get away at one pedal driving. This is on 35 and that feels okay, so I'd say 35 to 40, but we'll talk about that more in the summary. So today the efficiency or consumption is 124 watt hours per kilometre. Now I do cross-check this efficiency data with TeslaFi. It grabs more data from the car, and often that can vary a little bit here. From here it can be the better or worse. So I take an average of the two readings. So you can see here I've had to put my foot on the brake pedal to stop at those lights because I wasn't concentrating. But yeah, it's good to compare that TeslaFi. I've got to do a video on that separate. I've had that set up. It polls your car for data and puts that data into it puts your trips and things into a database that you can access through a website. You can also use it to control some functions of your car, but I think that's pointless. I don't have that enabled, and it seems pretty secure. It's two-factor authentication. It's just as risky as anything else. Giving the login data for your car. or a token, but you can always cancel that token at any time. So it's quite a good tool. I'll do a separate video on that. But guys, I want to get into the summary, and these series of videos have taken me a while to get done. It's been hard to find consecutive days with similar weather. We've had some pretty inconsistent weather here in Sydney, so I've had to sort of wait for the right conditions to run each of these tests. And then as I was doing these preconditioned tests, I learned a lot about it. So I realized that I had some more tests to do than I originally thought. So, all right guys, I'll finish up here and we'll get into the summary.